From translation, Net New English Translation. This 92nd day of the year. Today we are reading passages 1 Samuel 21 to 24. 1 Samuel chapter 21, verses 1 to 15. Then David went to Nob to Ahimelech the priest. Ahimelech was trembling when he met David and said to him, "Why are you alone and no one is with you?" David replied to Ahimelech the priest, "The king has commissioned me with a matter and said to me, 'No one should know anything about the matter I am sending you on.' He has instructed me, 'Tell the men who are with you to go somewhere else.' Now what do you have available? Give me 5 loaves of bread or whatever you can find." But the priest replied to David, "I don't have any ordinary bread available. I only have holy bread, provided it has not been taken from before the Lord so long as the young men have abstained from women." David replied to the priest, "Indeed, the women have been kept from us as I was on a mission, and the young men's vessels were holy even though it was an ordinary journey. How much more so today will their vessels be holy?" So the priest gave him the holy bread, for there was no bread there except the bread of the presence that had been removed from before the Lord, in order to replace it with fresh bread when it had been taken away. Now one of Saul's servants was there that day, detained before the Lord. His name was Doeg the Edomite, chief of Saul's shepherds. David said to Ahimelech, "Do you have a spear or sword available? I haven't brought my sword with me since the king's mission was urgent." The priest replied, "The sword of Goliath the Philistine, whom you killed in the valley of Elah, is here. It is wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If you want to take it for yourself, then do so, for there is no other except here." David said, "There is none like it, give it to me." That day David fled from Saul and went to Achish king of Gath. The servants of Achish said to him, "Isn't this David, the king of the land? Didn't they sing about him in their dances, saying, 'Saul has killed his thousands and David his 10,000s'?" David took these words to heart and was very fearful of Achish king of Gath. So he changed his behavior before them and pretended to be insane in their presence. He scribbled on the doors of the gate and let saliva run down his beard. Then Achish said to his servants, "Look at the man, he is insane. Why did you bring him to me? Do I lack madmen, that you have brought this one to act like a madman in my presence? Should this man enter my house?" 1 Samuel chapter 22, verses 1 to 23. David left that place and escaped to the cave of Adullam. When his brothers and all his father's household heard about it, they went down there to him. Everyone who was in distress, everyone who was in debt, and everyone who was discontented gathered around him, and he became their leader. There were about 400 men with him. David went from there to Mizpah of Moab. He said to the king of Moab, "Please let my father and mother stay with you until I find out what God will do for me." So David left them with the king of Moab, and they stayed with him all the time that David was in the stronghold. But the prophet Gad said to David, "Do not stay in the stronghold. Go into the land of Judah." So David left and went into the forest of Hereth. Saul heard that David and his men had been discovered. Now Saul was sitting in Gibeah under a tamarisk tree on the hill, with his spear in his hand, and all his officials were standing beside him. Saul said to his officials who stood beside him, "Listen, Benjamites. Will the son of Jesse give all of you fields and vineyards? Will he make all of you officers over thousands and over hundreds? Is this why all of you have conspired against me? No one tells me when my son makes a covenant with the son of Jesse. None of you is concerned about me or tells me that my son has incited my servant to ambush me, as he is doing today." Then Doeg the Edomite, who was standing there with Saul's officials, replied, "I saw the son of Jesse come to Nob. He went to Ahimelech son of Ahitub. Ahimelech inquired of the Lord for him. He gave him provisions and the sword of Goliath the Philistine." Then the king summoned Ahimelech the son of Ahitub and all the priests who were with him, who were in Nob. They all came to the king. Saul said, "Listen, son of Ahitub." He replied, "Here I am, my lord." Saul said to him, "Why have you conspired against me, you and the son of Jesse? You gave him bread and a sword and inquired of God for him, so that he would rise up against me and lie in wait, as he is doing today." Ahimelech replied to the king, "Who among all your servants is as reliable as David? He is the king's son-in-law, the captain of your bodyguard, and is honored in your own house. Was I the one who began inquiring of God for him? Far be it from me. Don't let the king impute anything to his servant or to any member of my father's house, for your servant knows nothing at all about this entire affair." But the king said, "You shall surely die, Ahimelech, you and all your father's house." Then the king said to the guards standing beside him, "Turn and kill the priests of the Lord, because their hand also is with David." Because they knew that he was fleeing and did not inform me. But the king's servants were unwilling to strike the priests of the Lord. So the king said to Doeg, "Turn and strike the priests." And Doeg the Edomite turned and struck the priests. He killed on that day 85 men who wore the linen ephod. He struck Nob, the city of the priests, with the edge of the sword, both men and women, children and infants, oxen, donkeys, and sheep, all with the edge of the sword. But one of the sons of Ahimelech, son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled to David. Abiathar told David that Saul had killed the priests of the Lord. So David said to Abiathar, I knew that day when Doeg the Edomite was there that he would surely tell Saul. I am responsible for the death of all your father's household. Stay with me, don't be afraid, for the one who seeks my life seeks your life. With me you will be safe. 1 Samuel chapter 23, verses 1 to 29. They told David, Look, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah and are stealing the threshing floors. So David inquired of the Lord, saying, Should I go and attack these Philistines? The Lord said to David, Go and attack the Philistines and save Keilah. But David's men said to him, Look, we are afraid here in Judah. How much more so if we go to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines? So David inquired of the Lord again. The Lord answered him, Go down to Keilah, for I am going to give the Philistines into your hand. So David and his men went to Keilah, fighting against the Philistines and leading away their livestock. The Philistines brought out a great army to fight against David. When Abiathar the son of Ahimelech had fled to David to Keilah, he brought an ephod with him. Now it was reported to Saul that David had come to Keilah. Saul said, God has handed him over to me, for he is trapped in a city that has gates and bars. So Saul summoned all the people to war, to go down to Keilah and besiege David and his men. When David learned that Saul was plotting harm against him, he said to Abiathar the priest, Bring the ephod here. Then David said, Lord, the God of Israel, your servant has heard that Saul intends to come to Keilah and destroy the city on account of me. Will the men of Keilah hand me over to him? Will Saul come down as your servant has heard? Lord, the God of Israel, please tell your servant. Then the Lord said, He will come down. David said, Will the men of Keilah hand me and my men over to Saul? The Lord said, They will hand you over. So David and his men, about 600 in number, left Keilah and were constantly on the move. When Saul was told that David had escaped from Keilah, Saul called a halt to his expedition. David stayed in the strongholds in the wilderness, in the hill country of the wilderness of Ziph. Saul sought him every day, but God did not hand David over to his hand. When David saw that Saul had come out to seek his life, David was in the wilderness of Ziph in the hill country of Hachilah. Jonathan son of Saul went to David at Horsh and encouraged him in God's name. Jonathan said to him, Do not be afraid, for the hand of my father Saul will not find you. You will be king over Israel, and I will be second to you. Even my father Saul knows this. The two of them made a covenant before the Lord. Then David stayed at Horsh, while Jonathan went home. The Ziphites went up to Saul at Gibeah, saying, Is not David hiding among us in the strongholds at Horsh, on the hill of Hachilah, which is to the south of Jeshimon? Now, O king, come down at our request, according to all the desire of your heart. It is our concern to hand him over to the king. Saul said, May you be blessed by the Lord, for you have shown compassion to me. Go, prepare further. Look and find out where his usual haunt is, and anyone who has seen him there, for he is now very tricky. As the proverb says, Traps are for snares, but snares are for the innocent. So look and find out all the places where he hides, and return to me with certainty, and I will go with you. If he is in the land, I will track him down among all the clans of Judah. They set out and went to Ziph ahead of Saul. Now David and his men were in the wilderness of Maon, in the Arabah to the south of Jeshimon. Saul and his men started out to look for David. When David was told about this, he went down to the rock of Selah. Saul went on one side of the mountain, while David and his men went on the other side of the mountain. David was hurrying to get away from Saul, while Saul and his men were surrounding David and his men to capture them. But a messenger came to Saul saying, Come quickly. The Philistines have raided the land. So Saul stopped pursuing David and went to confront the Philistines. That is why they call that place Selah Hammelkoth. Then David went up from there and stayed in the strongholds of En-Gedi. 1 Samuel chapter 24, verses 1 to 22. When Saul returned from pursuing the Philistines, he was told, David is in the wilderness of En-Gedi. So Saul took 3,000 select men from all Israel and went to look for David and his men in front of the rocks of the wild goats. He came to the sheepfolds along the road, where there was a cave. Saul went in to relieve himself. Now David and his men were sitting in the inner recesses of the cave. The men said to David, Here is the day of which the Lord said to you, I will hand your enemy over to you. You can do to him as you see fit. So David got up and secretly cut off the hem of Saul's robe. Afterward, David was conscience-stricken for having cut off the hem of Saul's robe. He said to his men, May the Lord keep me from doing such a thing to my lord the king, to attack the Lord's chosen one. For the Lord's chosen one is not to be violated. Do this in your mind, and then, since I have sinned against the Lord, take my life. David restrained his men with these words and did not allow them to rise up against Saul. Then Saul got up, left the cave, and went on his way. Afterward David got up, went out of the cave, and called out to Saul, My lord the king. When Saul looked behind him, David bowed to the ground and prostrated himself. David said to Saul, "Why do you listen to the words of people who say, 'Look, David intends to harm you'? This very day you have seen with your own eyes how the Lord gave you into my hands in the cave. Some urged me to kill you, but I spared you. I said, 'I will not lift my hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's chosen one.' Look, my father, see at your feet the hem of your robe. Since I cut off the hem of your robe but did not kill you, you know for certain that I am not planning to harm you or to rebel. I have not sinned against you, even though you are hunting me down to take my life. May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord avenge me against you, but I will not lift my hand against you. As the old proverb says, from evildoers come evildoish deeds. So I will not punish you for what you did to me earlier. Who will seize me and kill me in some remote place? There is no one but you in all Judah, my lord. So why do you say to me such things as these? May the Lord therefore be judge and decide between you and me. May he see it, plead my case, and deliver me from your hand." When David finished speaking these words to Saul, Saul said, "Is that your voice, my son David?" And Saul wept aloud. He said to David, "You are more righteous than I, for you have treated me well, whereas I have treated you badly. You have declared today that you treated me well, when the Lord gave me into your hand, but you did not kill me. For if a man finds his enemy, does he let him go away safely? May the Lord reward you with good for what you have done to me today. Now I know for certain that you will surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel will be established in your hand. So swear to me by the Lord that you will not cut off my descendants or wipe out my name from my father's family." So David made an oath with Saul. Then Saul went to his home, but David and his men went up to the stronghold.